was exciting to have the packet small enough to actually come in regular.
There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Okay. All right, now I'm supposed to read a whole bunch of stuff, so I'll do that. Any member of the public wishing to be heard should come forward to the podium. Now, this is for the regular meeting. For the next meeting, the final trim, it's different. So, but this is what applies for this meeting. Anyone can come to the podium at the appropriate time and introduce themselves to the board. Members of the public recognized by the chair will have 3 minutes to speak on a single subject matter or to address the current motion on the floor. The clerk of the trust will function as the official timekeeper. The clerk, okay. Now, what we would like to do is we'd like to make Cheryl, member Twombly, an official member, a voting member. So we can have a motion because she has extenuating circumstances, which are.
She's still out doing the work for disaster relief.
Okay,
So I move that Cheryl be allowed to participate and vote as under extenuating circumstances.
Second.
have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion is unanimous. Okay. Okay, the first, and we did the consent agenda. At this time, if there are any public to address the board about anything that is not on the agenda, this would be the appropriate time to do so. So if you would like to come up and say your piece, you have 3 minutes to do so. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let me see if this is working. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. So I'm here today along with 2 of my other colleagues that are nurses in the newborn home visiting program. And what we would like to do is just share brief stories with you that I think
That's actually on the agenda. So the appropriate time to talk to the board about that would be while we're having that discussion.
Okay.
Unless there's extenuating circumstances. It can be part of the presentation.
Okay, see you in a minute.
Okay. We eagerly anticipate that. Okay. Anyone else from the public would like to address the board? Okay, chair's report. I don't have any executive report, executive director's report.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have some exciting news. We have been in communications with the owners of the building off of, let's see, let me make sure I have this address correct.
43rd and 16th.
Thank you, sir. We have put in an offer for 1.95 million. They have accepted the offer with the caveat that we can basically close in 30 days. Our attorney has reviewed the contract and we are ready to move forward pending no objections from the board.
Okay, anyone have anything to comment about that?
I actually have been through the building the last go round with it. And I think it's a great space for us with lots of potential for expansion and ability to maybe rent out some of it. I think it's a great facility. It's in good shape. It's a beautiful building and a nice lot. So I would make a motion that we authorize Ms. Kiner to proceed.
Okay, have a motion. Second. Have a motion second. Any discussion?
The motion needs to give the executive director authority to sign the necessary paperwork
Okay.
to
So to
complete the sale.
include it and execute any required documents. I'll make that part of the motion.
You good with that? Yeah, seconder agrees. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. This is the same building we previously talked about and made an offer on that wasn't accepted, and now we're back to it.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And this is for less than previously,
$50,000.
less.
Okay, any discussion from the public? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion is unanimous. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. I want to go to presentations. Do you want any preamble? Do we have any committee updates?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No committee updates. I do want to add one other item. Staff and I will be walking through the building on tomorrow. We have noticed the walkthroughs so that if any of you would like to come through around 3 o'clock, we'll be there. So I just wanted to say that. No, sir, I think we're ready for the.
I'd love to, but I'll probably be tied up with the county, but if not, I'll come in.
You will be missed.
No, I want to see it. but
Okay,
do it a different day.
all right. And yes, now we would like to have the presentation about the Healthy Start program.
It starts
Well,
with,
I was going to say me.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chair, it starts with the staff providing a
Oh, okay.
update prior to the provider coming.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Hello.
So,
All right, so I wrote the staff report that is in your packet. Since we have a newer board member, along with just a reminder what Healthy Start is to our community and what all they are tasked to do, both here in Alachua County and in everywhere that they are. So I'm not going to read that because I'm sure you saw it. But what I am going to say is, as our community expert on maternal health and outcomes, Healthy Start of North Central Florida and the Children's Trust of Alachua County, we work together to transform their early childhood care and education in Alachua County. In addition to funding the newborn home visiting and maternal family partner, we also partner and partially fund other projects that they've had along the way. And what we've seen this year is we've also brought in FEMA. You heard them talk about those things when they came earlier this year. FEMA is the Fetal Infant Mortality Review. We serve on both the case review team and the community action group. Just last month, they launched the Grow Doula community program for putting community doulas in our community, which improves local maternal and child health care system. I got to meet with a group of newly trained doulas. They are excited and they were extremely thankful for the partnership with the Children's Trust. We're going to continue that partnership later next month with enhanced trainings for those doulas, which we're really excited about. It'll be right here on this floor. So 2 days of intense enhanced trainings to even get them even further educated on the work that's needed here in our community. And of course, we'll be partnering with them to also look at postpartum training as well for our doulas. The other part that we're also looking at in collaboration with them is looking at working with the local marketing agency to help us learn from our community the best way for promoting and branding our early childhood care as well. What I'm asking is that we're requesting both programs be funded for 1 year versus 6 months. And that is what we were talking about the last time we were here. Some programs were 6 months, some were a year. We're asking that they be funded for a year. And continued partnership will help the trust staff to co-design maternal and child health funding opportunities for fiscal year 2025, alongside Healthy Start and other maternal child health community partners. And to get there, we've asked the following of newborn home visiting program and the maternal family partner position to reestablish old and create new collaborations with community partners. This means they will identify and convene local leaders and champions and seek partnerships with community health worker programs, resource centers, build a stronger collaboration with UF Health and our other hospital in our area, and clinics who specifically focus on maternal, child, and community health. So we're asking them to do that work and to really reestablish that and do it in greater ways than they probably have done before. We're also asking to float and integrate the maternal family partner. If you remember that particular position, we piloted that position. We saw what it was doing in other counties, and it seemed to be that one thing that was needed to take it to the next level. So we piloted at Comprehensive Women's Health, and we've moved that pilot to where it is now, which is at Dr. Karen Harris's office. We want to be able to take that position and be able to float it among other 2 to 3 offices so that we can reach more high-risk clients, target more Alachua County families. The maternal family position, like I said, was piloted in 2 different clinics since 2021. So they are here to present and to provide data review and updates on the newborn home visiting program and the maternal family partner. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
Thank you. Any questions before she takes off? Okay, motion. That's it. We can do that. But I'm waiting here for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to move it. Go ahead.
Thank you.
That's positive.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Julie Mottery. I'm the Director for Healthy Start of North Central Florida Coalition, and we have the Family Partner Program and Newborn, which we're very fortunate and thankful. I'll start with the Family Partner at our prenatal care practice. As Mia mentioned, we are currently at Women's Group at North Florida. You can go down. Thank you. Sorry. So I have provided here just a quick description of what we do, what that family partner is responsible for, and really the intent of that program and that position. So that family partner works in collaboration with prenatal care providers, our Connect program, and home visiting programs to expand the integrated system that's already in place through the newborn home visiting program, but bringing it to that prenatal period. So newly pregnant women are assessed for their strengths and their needs, and then connected to services in Alachua County that will help support a healthy pregnancy and birth outcomes. There are 3 main components to what the family partner does. They do the Connect initial intake, they do referrals to home visiting programs and community resources, and then they also provide education and information to the patients that they see. We're very fortunate at Women's Group that they have really integrated our family partner into their practice, meaning that they have modified their whole scheduling process to ensure that seeing our family partner is part of the visit for the initial visit for that pregnant woman when she goes in. They're very committed to the success of this position and of this program, and we're very thankful for that. So I'm sorry. Do you want me to go into specifics about what she does there? Can you go back for a second? Yeah. So I mentioned there's those 3 components. So the first one is the initial intake that's conducted on the pregnant woman to identify her risks and strengths. The family partner discusses those risks and the strengths with the patient, evaluates their needs, and then determines their assets, strengths, and resources. From there, they're able to identify which home visiting program would best meet their needs. And the great thing about that is that we have the opportunity to present all of the home visiting programs that they're eligible for. They make the decision of which one best meets their needs, which creates more buy-in to participation in the program versus us just saying, you need this program, or we're the first ones to get to you, participate in our program, don't worry about these other ones. So that's the unique thing there with the way that the program and Connect are set up. In addition to connecting them to home visiting and community resources, the family partner does provide education and information to them. They talk about WIC benefits, Medicaid insurance benefits, family planning, safe sleep, the benefits of breastfeeding, and other community resources. So there's a lot that goes into that interaction, and the nurses within and the social workers within the practice really rely on and come to that family partner for help when they need a resource for one of their patients. Thanks, Mia. The next slide here has the numbers. As Mia mentioned, we were pilot the program at Comprehensive Women's Health last year. Comprehensive is a very large practice, and we were able to visit with 400 Alachua women. Of those, 98.7% did have that intake completed. 39.3% agreed to register for newborn, and 20% were connected to a home visiting program. When we switched over to women's group, and part of the impetus behind us switching to women's group was they have a very high risk population. So while they may not have as many Alachua residents, as you can see, our family partners met with 329 so far this year, which isn't complete. We still have about a month and a half worth of data. I'm lying to you, that's September 8th. We have about a half of a month worth of data to still add on there. She was able to do the intake on 99.7%, which is 328 women. 87.2% agreed to register for newborn. That's significantly more than what we got at Comprehensive. And 75% were connected to a home visiting program. And these are women that we know are high risk. So it's been very successful over at Women's Group. Any questions about the family partner before we go on to newborn?
Doesn't appear to.
It's pretty straightforward. That's the nice thing about the family partner position. Newborn, we have a lot of different components and moving parts to it. So at any point, stop me if you have questions, and I'm happy to try to answer them. So I know I've shared this slide and this information with you all before, but I think it does a great job of really capturing what a home visiting program does and what a program like newborn, where there's really one visit, how much of an impact that can have. So the World Health Organization states that newborn home visitation is an effective strategy to deliver newborn care and improve newborn survival. A single home visit by a nurse offers parents useful information about existing community services and resources, provides parents with an opportunity to ask questions regarding their infant's health needs, and identifies families or infants in need of greater assistance. Our program was modeled off of other evidence-based newborn type home visiting programs. And the purpose behind them and the goal is to create greater community connections, better utilization of higher quality childcare, higher quality parenting behaviors, enhanced home environments, improved mother and father mental health, reduced emergency medical care for infants, and then return on investment. This slide shows the number of births in the dark blue. The lighter blue are the number of birth parents who met with the family partner in the hospital where the program was explained and information was provided, and any kind of emergent needs or critical needs are addressed at that time for those families. The darker green are the families or the parents who consented to participate in the newborn program, and the lighter green are those that actually had the completed home visit and assessment. So you can see these numbers from the start of newborn in fiscal year 2019. I have put a report out there for you that goes into a little bit more detail in each of those years of some of the challenges that we have faced, like COVID, transitions with family partners, to help explain some of those numbers. And keep in mind again that the fiscal year 2023 data is not the full year. This is just partial of August. So we still have the rest of August and September to add in there. The next slide compares race for the newborn home visiting families And then, so the blue is families that participated in the newborn home visiting program. And green are all Alachua County families. So if you add up all the blue, that's 100%. If you add up all the green, that's 100%. So you can see from this data that 48% of the newborn home visiting program families identified as non-white, while 40% of the Alachua families identified as non-white. The next slide shows household income. 34, so it's similar as to the blue is the newborn home visiting families and green are the Alachua families. 34% of the newborn families have a household income of less than 35,000, whereas 18% of Alachua families have a household income of less than 35%. And as you can see from the graph, the household income groups that are less likely to participate in the program are those making over 50,000. These are some of the performance measures that are in our contract. Unfortunately, this year we lost both of our full-time family partners that we have had since the creation, the inception of this program, Valerie and Lisa Kay, both in the same month. Both of these positions have been filled. There are family partners back at both hospitals. And it does take a little bit longer for us to get the credentialing at North Florida than it does at Shands since it's an external process. So we tend to see that reflected in the numbers for North Florida. And the report that I provided you as well on pages 1 and 2, we've included reasons that the families have declined, as well as reasons that the families have accepted the program, as well as those challenges that we faced with the family partner position. So while we are lower than the target for completed assessments, we're equal with last year as far as the percentage and higher than the 2 previous years. And we are meeting or exceeding the targets for consent to participate, families connected to a home visiting program, and families reporting that they were satisfied with the program. The second set of performance measures have to do with, are these families better off? And 100% in each of those categories identified as being better off. This is based on the nurse confirming that the family partner or that the family understands what information has been shared with them by having that participant explain it back to the nurse. And our nurses go through many different trainings. You can see on page 3 of the report all the different trainings that they have participated in to ensure that they are qualified to provide this education.
No question.
Yes.
So all of these are basically, they've received the education, they understand the education. Do we have any way of measuring the actual impact in terms of referrals to EDs? Comparing this group of parents to the general data that we've had so that we know that they're actually using some of this information?
One of the things that we did since I guess it's been about 2 years that we've started these impact interviews. And I'll touch on that a little bit. So towards the end of each contract year, we reach back out to all of the families that participated in the program to see if they've actually implemented or utilized or benefited from the visit, what information they still retain, kind of what they kept with them. And then did they have any medical issues or concerns or things that were followed up on? So we do that through an impact interview. That's our best way to kind of go back because we're doing one visit. So that's our best way to kind of go back and follow up with them. I will say that many of the families, and I think the nurses can attest to this, many of the families choose to follow back up with the nurses and say, hey, what is this? What's going on with this? Can you help me with this? Where do I get this? So there is more than one visit that they are in communication with the family, but the impact interview is really our best way to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So this slide shows a snapshot of all the education and resources provided to the families. As you can see, 100% of the families receive safe sleep education. 40 families were identified as not having a place for their baby to sleep that was safe and were provided a pack and play. We do car seat checks now. 100 car seats were checked so far this year, and 18 car seats were provided to families that did not have one, or we've now been finding counterfeit car seats. So we're switching those out. Home safety checks are completed on all of the families that are seen. And then you can see some of those home safety items that we provide. One of the really interesting things that the nurses have identified this year is around families not having thermometers. And you would think after COVID, that would just kind of be a staple item that everybody has, but it's not. So we've really been trying to invest in making sure every family has a thermometer. So far this year, 181 thermometers have been provided. And these are families that don't have one. It's not that they don't have a good one, they just did not have one for their baby. And 200 families receive diaper rash ointment, which we know when there's diaper rash, wet diapers causes crying, can cause abuse and neglect. And so we are really passionate about making sure babies have diapers and diaper rash ointment. And every family receives a book for them to participate and communicate and read to their child, as well as developmental toys. So again, these are only in very extreme circumstances where we've seen that these families have nothing for their babies for these developmental toys and things like that, that we will provide one. So as you can see, much of this slide focuses on the infant. The next slide focuses more on the parents. The nurses do blood pressure checks on all of the women, and they have identified cases of postpartum preeclampsia resulting in immediate hospitalization or going in to see their physician immediately. And we know that this is one of the leading causes of maternal mortality. They also conduct the Edinburgh postpartum screening, depression screening, and we're doing this on mom and on dad. So this is not just for mom. And we have had cases where we've immediately called Better Beginnings or Meridian to say, we've got this woman who really needs support and care. Speak to her now. Can we get her in? So they're not just, one thing I really want to emphasize is that our nurses are not just saying, here's a referral, you should call this company and see if they can help you out. It's no, let's pick up the phone right now. Let's call your physician. Let's explain what's going on. They're holding their hands. They're helping them through that process, but then also empowering them to know what to say so they can advocate for themselves in the future. They also provide breastfeeding support to moms who are having challenges with baby latching and thriving. The nurses are certified lactation consultants. And 202 families were provided breastfeeding supplies to ensure that they are able to continue breastfeeding if that is what they choose to do. 100% of the participants that we interviewed completed their postpartum checkup, which according to ACOG, as many as 40% of women do not attend their postpartum visit. Disclaimer, as of now, we've only done 11 interviews. So 11 out of 11 said that they did that. We'll see once we complete all of the interviews what that percent ends up being, and we can report that to you. And all of the families are educated on family planning and birth spacing to reduce preterm births. March of Dimes has a grade of an F on the, Alachua has a grade of an F on the March of Dimes report card for preterm birth. So it's pretty serious. On the next slide, I'm not going to go through all of this, but these are the items in the educational information that are provided in the welcome baby bags. And then the next slide shares with you the, we do have materials that specifically focus on dads and teens. We heard that at a prior Children's Trust Board meeting, you know, what are you guys doing for dads? What are you guys doing for teens? And so as a result of that, we expanded what we were doing and created specific materials that we do provide when the parents are teens. And everything is available in English and Spanish. The next slide has a breakdown of the type and number of referrals for community resources and medical issues that our participants were referred for. And one of the biggest requests that we received was for infant CPR. So I just wanted to highlight that there because I'll touch on it again later. And the next slide has our satisfaction survey responses. Every participant that is in the program receives a satisfaction survey to see what their experience was like, if they would change anything, what they liked. Did they learn anything? And 100% of the parents and caregivers who received that survey said that they reported being satisfied with the home visiting program. 96% felt that the program was helpful, and 100% said they would recommend it to a family member or a friend. And if you look at pages 12 through 15 of the report that we provided to you, there are 98 comments from the satisfaction surveys that were submitted from participants. So 98. I think that's pretty impressive. They didn't have to leave a comment, and they did. And you'll see all of these ladies' names on those. The impact interviews, as I mentioned, We have been able to complete 11 to date. We're going to really start pushing that, and they have been pushing that more recently as we're nearing the end of the contract year. We like to include that in that year-end report. 100% felt that the program gave them confidence as a participant. 100% felt that the program eased their stress about parenting a newborn, and 100% actually initiated breastfeeding, which is pretty significant. At 3 months of age, so when we followed back up at 3 months of age, 82% of those participants said that their infants are still eating breast milk, and 18% are formula only. So that's pretty significant numbers. And then just some comments on there about what they learned from the program. I think one of my favorites was had to do with taught my husband how to feed them and how I can feed them. Yeah. As well as the car seats and the Dolly Parton Imagination library. And then there was a couple of other just ways to pump to increase my milk supply. So the breastfeeding for some reason is something that really has been sticking with the participants.
Julie, I'm gonna have to ask you to pause for a minute. We gotta go through the budget stuff.
Oh, is it that time?
Yes, so.
Yes,
so,
sir.
I'll get you back.
No worries.
As soon as we're done with that, it shouldn't take too long. So I want to pause the regular meeting and I want to call to order the final trim hearing. And I'll start out by saying any member of the public who wishes to be heard shall come forward to the podium at the appropriate time and introduce themselves. And I will tell you when that time is. To the board, members of the public recognized by the chair will have 3 minutes to speak on the budget matter and to address the current motion. Well, there won't be a current motion on the floor. The clerk of the trust will function as the official timekeeper. The clerk will now call the roll.
Member Certain. Member Andrew.
Present.
Member Labarda.
Present.
Member Cornell.
Here.
Member Harts.
Here.
Member Ferrero.
Here.
Member Dickinson.
Here.
Member Chance. Here. Member Swan.
Here.
Okay, now at this point, let's get Cheryl an official member. So if y'all because of the extenuating circumstances, she has an opportunity to, should we make a motion that allows her to do so, she can participate as a voting member. So if we can get if anybody is compelled to do that, that would be great.
So
Second.
Have a motion, a second, any discussion? Any public discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Cheryl, you're official. Now we need to approve the agenda, and I don't believe there are any revisions.
Approval of the agenda.
Need a second?
Second.
Need to have a motion, a second, any discussion? Any public discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Okay, those opposed, motion's unanimous. Okay, now. Script. My script. Just have to find it. Okay. Introduction of the public hearing on the Children's Trust of Alachua County fiscal year 2023-24 proposed budget. And thank you all for the big print. Thank you all think I'm blind. So I appreciate it. The Children's Trust of Alachua County convenes the final public hearing on fiscal year 2023-24 proposed millage rate and proposed budget as required by the Florida statutes. Chapters 125 and 200 as advertised in the truth and millage trim notices. I urge you, if you have not already done so, to get a copy of the agenda so that you may easily follow the proceedings this evening. Citizen comment will be taken following the overview by the budget of the budget by the executive director. Trust Council will now present an overview of the truth and millage legislation, followed by the executive director's explanation of the proposed rate. Bob?
In 1980, the Florida legislature adopted what is known as a truth and millage legislation, or TRIM as it's called. The goal of the legislation was to ensure that taxpayers were advised of the public hearings at which the local taxing authorities' budgets and millage rates were to be considered and adopted. Each year, the property appraiser completes an assessment of the value of all property and certifies to each taxing authority the taxable value of the property within its jurisdiction. Each taxing authority then notifies the property appraiser of its proposed millage rate, its rollback rate, and the date, time, and place of the public hearing to consider the proposed millage rate and the proposed budget. Once the property appraiser receives the information, she sends a notice by first-class mail to every taxpayer on the assessment roll. The notice contains the information from the taxing authorities as to the proposed millage rate and the time and place of the public hearing. The notice sent to taxpayers is called the trim notice. The trim notice lists what taxes were for the prior year, what taxes will be if the proposed budget changes are made, and what the taxes will be if no budget changes are made. The purpose of the trim notice is to provide taxpayers with sufficient basic information to enable them to participate in the public hearing process.
Executive Director.
The requirements of the truth in millage legislation is to provide information about the maximum allowable millage rate of 0.5 versus the rollback rate. The rollback millage rate is defined as the millage rate, which exclusive of new construction, additions to structure, deletions, and property added due to geographic boundary changes, will provide the same ad valorem tax revenue for each taxing authority as was levied during the prior year. The proposed millage rate of 0.4612 provides for future programming needs, adequate staffing, and planning for future facilities. For the 2023 tax year, the rollback rate calculation is 0.4216 mils. The recommended proposed millage for fiscal year 23-24 budget is the rate of 0.4612. Mr. Chair, the total Children's Trust proposed budget for fiscal year 23-24 is $18,425,708. This budget reflects the board's recommendations to increase funding to grants and aid by 24% and an 8% increase in operations and administration, as well as an additional $1 million set aside for the purchase of a permanent location. The amendments to the budget are reflective. Big one. Sorry, did I miss something? I'm sorry. I'm going to go back, as well as an additional $1 million set aside for purchase of a permanent location. The adjustments to the budget are reflective, thank you, of election to use the current 2022-2023 rate of 0.4612 and utilize previously collected ad valorem taxes from the property appraiser. The fiscal year 24 budget reflects continued funding of the providers that have demonstrated the ability to provide results that align with our goals. Additionally, funds in each goal category may be allocated in accordance with results of our strategic plan initiative that is currently underway. The budget has been developed to link funding with the trust's desired goals while remaining flexible enough to respond to changing circumstances. That, Mr. Chair, concludes my comments on our budget. And please forgive me, I have new glasses. So, for skipping that other line.
I didn't notice that you skipped it. I was reading it, so.
I did, yeah.
Okay, now at this time, I would like to invite the citizens to comment on the fiscal year 2023-24 proposed millage rate and proposed budget. Members of the public recognized by the chair will have 3 minutes to speak on the subject of this trim meeting. The clerk of the trust will function as the official timekeeper. Members of the public may not share or transfer all or part of their allotted time to any other individual. The hearing will continue until everyone who wishes to address the board has had the opportunity to speak. Okay, y'all won't push each other out of the way to get up here to address the board. So anybody have any comments on the budget? Okay. That just shows what a great job you did, everybody involved. Okay, all right. Does the clerk of the trust have any comments submitted by email? I will now close the public comment section of this public hearing. Adjustments, Executive Director, are there any adjustments to this?
Mr. Chair, I don't believe there are any adjustments at this time, but if there are, they can be made.
Okay, any board members want to adjust anything? Thank you. All right. Florida statutes require the name of the taxing authority and the millage rate to be levied be publicly announced. Accordingly, the Children's Trust of Alachua County has determined that a proposed millage rate of 0.4612 mils is necessary to fund the proposed Children's Trust of Alachua County budget. The FY 2023-24 operating millage rate is 0.4612 mils, which is greater than a rollback rate of 0.4216 mils by 9.39%. Board.
I move adoption of resolution 2023-17, establishing fiscal year 24 proposed children's trust of Alachua County millage rate.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the board? Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Okay. The next item,
We'll adopt resolution 2023-18, adopting change revenue estimates and the fiscal year 24 proposed children's trust law kind of budget.
Second.
a motion and a second. And just to clarify, you didn't vote on the last one,
That's,
correct?
thank you.
Okay.
Can we clarify that? I didn't vote.
All right, and member Furrow did not vote on the last motion. Okay, any discussion on this motion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion is unanimous. This concludes the proposed budget hearing. Thank you all very much, and we will adjourn this trim meeting and go back to the regular board meeting. Julie?
Thank you. All right, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. As you saw from an earlier slide, many of the families requested infant CPR. We used to contract with another entity to conduct 2 CPR classes, but now our nurses are trained to do that and they conduct the classes themselves, which have expanded to include infant safety, and they're able to hold the classes more frequently. So in addition to this being a great way to provide that education to the families we serve, it's also been a great opportunity to promote the newborn home visiting program and the Children's Trust and get families registered. So many of these classes have resulted in registration and visits. The classes are promoted through our prenatal care providers, hospitals, pediatricians, and community agencies. And pages 8 and 9 of the report that you've received show the results from the surveys of the participants who attended those trainings. 100% rated the class as excellent or very good, and 100% would recommend the class to a friend or a family member. This slide shows the overall participation in home visiting programs in Alachua County. So we have multiple home visiting programs in Alachua County: Healthy Start, Healthy Families, Nurse Family Partnership, Parents as Teachers, our brand new Team Dad, and then the newborn home visiting program. This last year, many of our home visiting programs experienced a decline as they were no longer able to provide virtual visits, and a lot of women were no longer working from home. So we felt that impact on a lot of our home visiting programs. So I just wanted to point that out in those numbers. But overall, you can see the total home visitation participation for Alachua. And wrapping up, we were so fortunate that this last year we were able to do a video through the Greater Good on the newborn home visiting program. 2 of our participants participated in that video to share their experience with newborn. And in addition, starting on page 16 of the report that we provided you, are letters of support for the newborn home visiting program from UF Health Shands, HCA Florida, North Florida, All About Women, and Women's Group.
Okay, questions?
So no questions, just a couple of comments. I think it's a great program. As a dad, my first son, when my first son was born, I was 23 years old. I'm 55. Y'all want to hear a funny story about how little I knew and how I wish this program existed? I'll tell you offline. But I really appreciate how this program continues to kind of modify itself and improve with what we're seeing on the ground, and how you are working with staff on not only the outcomes, but just really improving the program. I love the survey comments. Lindsay, Kara, Diana, Sandy are obviously all rock stars, and there may be others, but certainly those 4 I recognize. And so with that, I would move staff recommendation.
We have,
I have a question.
okay.
You want a sec? I'll second it.
We have a motion second, Judge.
Also love what you're doing. I just want to know, are you able to identify families who are either taking infants home from the hospital in a foster or non-relative placement or relative placement, so they can have these services? And are we also, do you allow your nurses to go into the MIST program where mothers and babies are also having some real struggles?
Yes, both of those,
And also
absolutely.
adoptive parents who
Yep.
are taking babies from the hospital. The MIST program is.
Mother's intensive
Supportive
supportive treatment.
It's where if a
Yes,
mother is getting some, often.
She can go in
substance abuse.
prenatally.
They're all,
That's all.
the moms in that program all have significant substance use addiction issues.
And a
They
lot of
come
times-
either while pregnant or shortly after delivering. They can bring along a small child, so that there's often a small sibling that's with them as well.
And even if a child is sheltered away from their family, the mother's in the MIST program, baby can sometimes go back with the mother and be placed with the mother as long as she stays at this program.
And
Yes.
most of those women are high-risk pregnancies, so they're involved with any number of those.
So I just want to make sure that you guys get to
But
those,
yeah,
that group
yeah.
as well.
Yes, ma'am, we do. So if baby is being adopted or put up for foster care, we do make sure that whatever family or caregiver is taking care of that baby has the opportunity to participate in the program. It doesn't have to be biological parents. And then we do visit MISC very frequently between newborn, our nurse family partnership program, which focuses on substance exposed newborns or women that have had a history or current substance use. So we are, and then even Healthy Start is in there doing group classes. So yes, we
Great.
are very involved.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
MIST is happy to invite anyone and everyone.
Sure. yeah.
Yes, they are very kind to allow us to come on a monthly basis to do a group class.
Well,
And that helps recruit.
I mean, these groups are probably the highest, a lot of them are the highest risk.
Yes.
Mhm.
And they're not all Alachua residents there. Many of them are. So when we do newborn, it is for those that are Alachua residents.
Any further questions?
I have a couple.
Okay, good.
I'd be interested in hearing how you set or work around targets for the number of kids that or families that you're going to be touching every year. Do you try and look at, ways to improve it, sort of set up a little bit of a stretch goal to kind of increase the number? And then the other comment I had is really more for our staff. I see in the New Horn Visiting the Impact paper that we have some of the data on the kinds of issues that we're hopefully helping mitigate by educating parents. I'd kind of like to see a trend for that. I mean, I did some real quick math. And the drop off at the very beginning, 70% of the moms are actually letting you come in and talk to them about the program, which is great. But then by the time you get down to actually completing the home visit and assessment, that comes down to 28%. So I'd be interested in, are there strategies to help, close that gap a little bit? And then do we begin to see an impact? Do we move the needle on some of those indicators of both maternal and infant health? And so again, I think that may be more our staff working with you around some of those data points that you're not going to be able necessarily to collect, but I would be interested in some of that targeting of what percentage we're reaching.
Bonnie does a great job of giving us targeted goals that are realistic yet push us to strive to do more than what we are doing. We also would love to figure out ways to increase those that are actually completing the home visit. This is a challenge that we face with all of our home visiting programs that
Oh, yeah.
if we could figure that out, it
Oh,
would
yeah.
benefit all of our home visiting
Yeah.
programs. So we are really excited about the opportunity to work together to figure out how do we reach that community and build that trust to allow us in their homes.
And to that point, you mentioned, or in the impact report, a marketing plan was mentioned or a marketing group. I know that's not your report, but I'm just curious about what that looks like.
So part of the Christopher mini grants, this is the sustainability plan. Part of what they've asked us to do is to create how we can sustain some of the work that we've been doing in Monmouth County. So what I did is I wrote up what that would look like. So that's family leader looking at family, the family force itself, and then of course working with a local market agency to figure out how we can promote those things, through either our resource magazine and other ways. That we do that. There's more information to come as we work through all the details. It's very new.
Thank you. And in terms of the home visits, I'm sure you're checking with other communities to see who's cracked the nut in terms of increasing that ratio of people who say yes to people who actually allow you in the home.
Right.
Um,
And then how many of those people you refer actually make it and start working in that other program?
right.
So
Yeah, you
it's
just
the- it's
wonder,
the say versus do.
you just
as
wonder about
always.
like just the one-on-one communication, like what works or resonates with families.
Word of mouth is the biggest. So when we have one family or one woman who consents and participates and starts sharing her experience, it's somebody that they trust, that they know, they're more likely. That's exactly what we saw with our nurse family partnership program. These are very high-risk women who have a history or current substance use, and they don't trust a lot of people. So when one member of, their community says, this program was great, my nurse was awesome, she really helped me, it allows them to trust that nurse too. But if we're just a stranger coming in there saying, so, yeah.
Thank you.
And may I please request just a couple minutes for these nurses
Yeah.
to share their stories?
Yes.
They do the hard work. They should get the credit for it. And they've made such an impact on a lot of families in Alachua. So thank you.
Okay,
Welcome back.
just be kind enough to give me your name.
Hi again. It's me. I'm still here. I'm Sandy Muir, and I'm one of the nurses in the newborn home visiting program. And I'm here with two of my colleagues today. We're just going to give you some very, very quick stories that I think really reinforce or underscore the fact that this program is very effective, and also underscores the fact that it's a very important program. So I'm going to explain to you one of the visits that I had with one of my families this past August. So basically, when I went to the home, I entered the home, and it was a very busy environment, lots of people there. Apparently a lot of family members from other countries were there to help with the baby. Somebody was drilling in one corner of the house. So very loud, very busy, which ultimately I'm going to talk about my stress level. I think that added to her stress level, having all of this going on. She, Dad, and I and the infant went to a different room to do our visit. And I almost immediately could sense Mom's level of anxiety and stress based on her body language, her facial expressions, and she proceeded to ask me multiple questions about the infant and the newborn care that she was providing, questioning herself about whether it was adequate and appropriate care. She would ask the same question and reword it in different ways. So again, just reinforced to me her level of anxiety and stress that she was experiencing. She was also having difficulty with her breastfeeding, which she admitted was increasing her anxiety. Fortunately, I'm a CLC, like Julie mentioned, that we're trained for helping with lactation. So we were able to get the baby to the breast, get the baby latched, get the baby breastfeeding. Mom was really thrilled about that. So again, helped her with some of her anxiety. She and Dad both were very concerned about traveling in the car with the infant, and very scared to take the infant anywhere. I'm also a car seat technician, so we were able to talk about car safety. We went over the installation of her car seat to reassure them that we could make it as safe as possible for traveling with the infant, which really, especially really helped Dad at that moment because he was experienced a lot of anxiety about that. The next thing that happened, Dad left the room momentarily and Mom broke down into tears. She admitted to me that she wasn't connecting with the baby or bonding with the baby. So the first thing I did was I said, I'm so glad you were able to share that with me. That was so brave of you. And I want you to know that there's hope out there for you, which immediately you could tell again by the expression on her face that that level of anxiety and stress was decreasing. I was able to talk to her about postpartum depression and anxiety, and actually tell her that other moms feel the same way as she's feeling. She's not alone. It's a common presentation of postpartum depression to feel that lack of bonding and connection to the baby. And that again help with her level of guilt dramatically, because she felt so guilty. And all of this guilt and this lack of connection was also impacting her breastfeeding. So that was all part and parcel to the whole situation that she was dealing with. We talked about resources available to her. We talked about strategies to talk to the family members to help decrease some of the stress that was being created by having all the additional people in the home. She confided in me it was in particular her in-laws. So we talked about that. And ultimately, we were able to get her into Better Beginnings for counseling, which I have since followed up with her, and she's doing much better. I wasn't probably 2 miles from her home when I got a lengthy text that said immediately she felt better, having been able to verbalize what she was feeling had helped her with her anxiety tremendously. Of course, she was thrilled now that she had some tips on breastfeeding as well. And she basically was thrilled to know that there are resources out there. She was unaware that other moms feel this way and that there is help and there's people that specialize in counseling families like this and moms. Both she and dad scored very high on the Edinburgh that Julie talked about. So dad was interested in the counseling as well. So that's my story.
And they also kicked the person out of the house who was doing the drilling. That helped too, so.
It was very loud. I would have been stressed. I was stressed as the nurse getting there. It's like, what do we do next? So yeah, so that's my story.
Can I ask you
Sure.
a question? Thank you for your story. I was wondering, are there legitimate resources for people who cannot get to a counselor? Like, is there a telehealth option for people? You hear all these things when you're listening to podcasts or anything about all these apps and people you can call, they're not even in your state. Do you have any that people
We
can
do.
use?
Well, Better Beginnings itself has virtual sessions. We have another resource for moms called behavioral health, and that's only virtual sessions. We also offer moms the maternal hotline information that they can contact in addition to the Better Beginnings. And then Psychology Today, you can go to their website and we tell mom all about these resources, not just Better Beginnings. In Psychology Today, you can look up, go to their website and look for a counselor in your area that also takes your insurance. So we have multiple resources that we can offer to the moms to fit the needs that they have.
Thank you.
Meridian does telehealth too.
Any further questions? Thank you, Ms. Beer.
I just want to say thank you, fellow Twister mom.
I know, I
Back in the
recognize
day,
you.
we were figuring it out as parents ourselves. So
Yeah.
thank you, and thank you for that.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Very personal testimony.
Hi, my name is Kara Goss. I'm another nurse home visitor for the newborn program. So I had a really hard time trying to find one story. I feel like every time we do a home visit, it really truly is a success story. There's so much that comes from each one. It depends on the mom's needs, of course. If it's a mental health issue, she's overwhelmed. So that kind of, it takes, that becomes the first priority. We also always give out the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline. I know that's the hotline she was trying to tell you about. It's 24/7, comes in English and Spanish. It's free. And there's also a crisis suicide line. All they have to do is dial 988 if it's that serious. Just to add on to that. So I've had, okay, so just even this morning or today, I saw a mom and went to check her car seat. And the harnesses where the baby is strapped in were in a knot on the back instead of being strapped into the metal brackets. So obviously showed her how to use it, and showed her correctly how to do it and how to get it taller for when her baby grows and all that stuff that goes along with the car seat safety. But she just says it's such a blessing. She's like, I had no idea that I was supposed to be doing this. And then I've seen at least 10 families in the past year that did not know how to loosen the straps on their car seat or how to tighten the straps, which is critical when you're trying to get the babies in and out of the car seat to get a good fit. I've seen a lot of issues with car seat. I am going to share a story about a counterfeit car seat. Also wanted to mention, there was also one that I went to where the mom was just insistent on baby not sleeping in the room with them. Make a long story short, I talked her into having the baby. No, she moved the baby in the bassinet and she slept on the couch so that they would be together at night because the husband was trying to sleep. She was trying to let him sleep and that was causing anxiety for him. So we figured out a plan. She was going to sleep on the couch for a while and then she was going to, until she got a bed for the nursery, and then she could sleep in the nursery for a while. So baby was sleeping in a bassinet, and thankfully, just a few weeks later after my visit, she let me know that she just had a sixth sense. Looked at her baby was blue, he had an apneic episode, called the ambulance. And if she hadn't been sleeping right there next to him and was trying to use a baby monitor, she never would have been able to pick up on that. So, that was a really, powerful, visit. And she just, she was a nurse too, and she thanked me over and over again because, you know, and there were so many things. She also had mental health issues. She was also anxious. She also, baby wasn't breastfeeding. So there were a number of things going on during the visit, but because our assessments are so thorough, we did make time for that safe sleep and got baby sleeping in a safe, place. Okay, I'm gonna try to make this as quick as I can. So I've also provided pack and plays to many moms who did not have a safe sleep place for their baby at all. So they had like often baby sleeping in the bed with them or in a car seat. And I was able to give them a pack and play. Okay, so just in June of this summer, I saw a family who was concerned that the infant had gone 3 days without stooling. The baby was gaining weight, but it had been a while since the baby stooled. So showed the baby several techniques that I was a NICU nurse for 18 years prior to this. And so showed the mom how to do the I love you infant gas massage to help the baby stool and pass gas, showed them how to do all the bicycling and different little techniques that they can do to help their baby. How tummy time also helps with moving that stuff as well. And then once the baby's cord fell off and was completely dry, she could also give baby a bath to help ease bowel movements as well. Then, you know, mom had concerns with breastfeeding. She was giving baby formula just because she had lactation come in the hospital to try to help her breastfeed, but they were unable to get the baby to latch at all. And she'd given up. But she really, when I was there, she said, I really wanted to see you because I really do want to breastfeed. So if there's a chance, can we try to? Absolutely, let's do it. So we actually were able to get the baby latched and the baby breastfed for 30 minutes during that visit alone and then fell asleep. So she was just that she knew she even could. She was so excited, and baby continued to do really well at the breast after that when I checked in on her later. So then we go to check the car seat. Oh, and she was not able to breastfeed her now 8-year-old son. So that meant even more to her. And then I also referred her to Mary Reingart at UF Tower Square for further assistance with breastfeeding and lactation help as well. And then the mom admitted to me she was allowing the infant to sleep on a boppy covered with a crib sheet. So we went over safe sleep as well with this one and the risk of sudden infant death syndrome and what.
Circular pillow, half circle.
Yeah, so it's actually for breastfeeding, but there's many moms who try to prop baby up on it, which is incredibly dangerous because it can cause, of course, the chin is not in a neutral position from the chest. So they can roll, it's such a risk for anything other than breastfeeding. This mom it's like a pillow that just goes around them like this, and it doesn't go all the way around. So she had wrapped a crib sheet. She thought it was very clever, was very proud of her sleeping invention, but we talked about how that was not safe at all. They're not for sleeping. Even the loungers are not for sleeping. So went over all that, she understood. Gave her some educational materials, and then also gave her, because that's a very common thing we get, is that they're maybe utilizing these other things because they can't get baby to sleep in the bassinet. And we know that's the safest place for baby to sleep. So gave her all these tips for helping infants sleep in the bassinet, also showed her how to swaddle, showed her how to lay baby down, and all these different techniques she could do to help baby sleep. And then she felt confident she could do it on her own before I left. Okay, she was also involved with Healthy Families, so I was happy to hear that. I didn't have to convince her. She was already in Healthy Families. She wanted the father of the baby to be certified in CPR, so they attended our class to learn CPR. And then when I went to go check her car seat, I realized right away there were so many things wrong with it that it was definitely a counterfeit. So she was devastated because, you know, the money that goes into buying the car seat, and it even came with a stroller. So I had to tell her, unfortunately, you can't use this car seat. It's not safe to use. So I came back the very next day, brought her a car seat. She wasn't going anywhere else that day. Brought her a car seat and installed it in the vehicle, showed her how to use it, and we went over car seat safety.
Where do they buy the counterfeit?
Online. So there's websites from China, and the names of the websites change, but the products they're offering are the same.
Yeah.
So that was also, she didn't have it didn't come with an owner's manual. There were several things wrong with it, but didn't come with an owner's manual, didn't have a 1-800 number to call, was not certified. And when she tried to go back to the same website she bought it from, it no longer existed. And it was under a different name. She could find it under a different website. So came back, gave her a car seat. She was so thankful. She had no idea. And really was trying to do the best things for her baby. And then of course I checked in on her, asked her about how baby was stooling, because that was why she was concerned. She just wanted to know why her baby hadn't stooled and was concerned about that. And that's how the whole thing started. So she said her baby the night before had made up for not stooling for a couple of days. So that was no longer an issue. And then, and then of course we provided them with a fatherhood folder because dad was involved. And all of those other resources and things like that.
Amazing.
I have more.
Great work.
I'll let
That's
Diana
great.
know.
Great work. Just
Any
great.
questions?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ms. Goss. We appreciate it. Before we hear the next testimonial, we have one member who needs to leave. And so we want to go ahead and do this motion. And then we still want to hear the testimonial. So are there any questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, which was to staff recommendation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, all right. We would love to hear the next one.
Yeah, it really is very helpful to get a better,
Yeah.
fuller sense.
What happened? Yeah.
Now I don't want to leave. It's the one person I know. Okay, I'm gonna stay. I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna wait. You're also great. I know.
My name is Diana.
She had Twister. She had your Twister
And your name?
friends, and I have.
My name is
Panther
Diana
friend.
Stetter.
I'm sorry, last name.
Diana, trying to get this to go lower because I'm short, but Diana Stetter, and I'm a nurse. And I worked prior to doing this home visiting program. I worked at Shands for 10 years, night shift with moms and babies. So I know what it's like those first 24 to 48 hours in our job while we're there is to educate. And they're sleeping while you're talking to them, or they're trying really hard to hear me and everything I'm trying to teach them about safe sleep and SIDS and taking care of themselves and how are you going to breastfeed when you go home and who do you have for support and self-care, all these things we're telling them. So what I love about doing this program now is that I get to go see them when they're home, which is a whole different story than when they're in the house, when they're in the hospital. And so most of the time it's a whole different story for sure. Even though at the hospital, they'll tell us they've got everything they need and all looks good, car seats, places for babies to sleep and things like that. They've got it all, but then you'll get to the home and you'll find out that that's not always the case. Whoever said they were going to give them a crib or a bassinet, it didn't come through. Whoever was going to be there for them and support them are not there for them for whatever reason. So a lot of times when I walk into these homes, they're just thrilled I'm there because they're somebody to talk to because they know I'm there just to help them. And that's what I tell them. It's your appointment. We're going to go over a lot of stuff, but I need your questions. I need to know where you're struggling. What can I help you? Most of the time, and some of the stories I had were about safe sleep. I walked into homes where babies are sleeping in car seats. They're sleeping in bed with cushions all around them. The biggest thing that we tell them not to do, they're doing. I've had them also, of course, sleeping on them with no other people coming in and checking on them. So that's a big thing. So we talk about that. I get a lot of the Spanish speakers and they don't have a lot of that. They don't have a lot of families sometimes to help them. So I show pictures. I can't speak Spanish. So I kind of tell them about why this isn't safe. A lot of times they have no idea. This is the way they've always done it. One of my favorite visits, though, are when I have other family members there. Because they always have opinions on how everything should be in the house. And so when a mom says, and I say exactly what she's trying to tell them, but I'm saying it with little, pull I have, they're like, oh, okay, well, then we won't do that anymore, whatever it might be. And it's a lot of times it's the sleeping on the stomach. We did that all the time when you guys were kids. Look at you now, so I explained to them about that. So in that respect, when we go in there as nurses, I feel like we're such an advocate, just even with their family. you know, in-laws, whatever. I've had some moms whisper to me, can you tell my mother-in-law that, you know, in her culture, you can't bathe for a month. Can you please explain to her that I should be able to shower? You know, like weird things, but you're like, sure, whatever it takes, you know, because they're struggling, you know, they're so exhausted. To go in off of what both Sandy and Kara said, one of the biggest things is just that anxiety and the postpartum depression. And it's not always full-blown postpartum, but they're just struggling and they're exhausted. And I can always tell them as a mom that I know what it means to lose sleep. There's like a 9-year difference between my two kids because it was such a struggle. And so I understand that. And I tell them my stories and that they're going to get through it. And sometimes sometimes that lifting them up and letting them know you can do this, you know, we get through it together. I give them lots of ways to soothe their infants. And that's a big one. And dads love to get involved in that when they're there. Like, what do we do? How can we make this work? And so I show them that you can do this in a safe sleep environment. And we talk about grounding and just basic things to have them close by. One of the things that I learned that when I'm out there is that they don't think a lot about themselves, new moms, new dads, because they're all focused on the baby, rightfully so. And I tell them that's priority. But I tell them it's so important for you to take care of yourself. Because if your battery, you're like out, nothing, you're not sleeping during the day, taking short naps. If you're not eating regularly, which is a lot of what I hear. Like when I walk in, I'm like, when's the last time you ate? And they look at me and I don't know. I get a lot of single moms. I've had teen moms. Some of my stories were a teen mom who was working and she was very excited with where she worked and what she bought for her baby. And she was using it in her car seat. So she was padding up her car seat and thought this was a good idea. So I explained to her how you can't do that with car seat. It no longer makes it a safe car seat for her baby. And so that was good. And her grandmother was there helping her, taking care of her baby. And so together they were learning. And so that was a great experience. The mom with the cushions thought she was getting a crib and somebody was going to come through for her and didn't. So the fact that I was there within like 2 weeks to help her, she hadn't reached out to anybody yet to tell them, you know, my baby's sleeping with cushions around them on the bed. So I was able to provide her with a pack and play. I think that's that's a lot of what I do when I go out there. And again, I think part of why they love it. I recently had a mom say, I said, yes, they're not always comfortable with us walking in their homes. That's something that's hard on the phone to convince them of. And they're like, I'm not ready for you to be here. But I'm like, it's going to be great if I come now. If I come now while you're struggling the most, then I can help you and this can be smooth and I don't care what your house looks like. And
How
so
successful are you on that line?
okay, pretty good. I mean, I tell them I'm not there for that. I just want to help you, you know, see if you're getting any sleep, see if
But we're seeing that as a stumbling block. So
it can be.
So how successful are you usually when when y'all have that conversation?
Well,
50%.
one thing you can offer them if that's the main hospital for us doing a visit. We have the option of doing a virtual visit with them. What I take them with the number of my moms, if I can get them on the phone and start talking to them and tell them, you know, give them information.
I want to come up to the microphone, please.
A lot of times what I've found is moms that have been hesitant, in particular hesitant to have us in their home. If I can get them on the phone and start talking to them and gain their trust, let them know all the ways the program can help them, answer a lot of their questions, help them with their, the stress that they're dealing with. They then will actually invite me to come and actually do an in-person visit after that phone call. So that's been a good strategy.
So back to the question about how successful are you all on that? So I mean, 50% of the time, 25% of the time.
I would say more than 50% of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's say you get 20 moms, I see about 18 of them. Out of the 20, like I might get for whatever period of time.
I think I personally haven't typically had moms say, no, I'd like a visit, but I don't want you to come here. We've also, and Diana's done this, offered to meet in other locations like a library or at our office. I have done a few of the visits actually at the office. Typically, more often, the reason we're not or getting the follow through with the actual visit completed is we just are unable to make any kind of contact with the mom. They
Okay.
just don't respond to our phone calls or text. The program outline is that we try to contact them a minimum of, or at least 3 times, but we're typically calling them 5 and 6 times. And interestingly, it's sometimes the 5th and 6th time that we're actually finally able to reach them. By that point, they're sort of,
They give up. Okay.
yeah, well, Kara has been accused of stalking. I will just throw that in only once. But I think it's at that point, they're not as overwhelmed and they realize that, you know what, I really could use some help. Or they're that overwhelmed and they finally are answering those text messages they've gotten 3 days ago. They're finally making,
Okay.
answering those. So.
Thank you.
Are the majority of your moms first timers? No?
Today's mom, I had 6 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, but there was like a span of 7 years, so she's like, what's this? Give me some advice. But
I would say more than half of them are first time
First time,
moms,
okay.
more than half. But
and I do see a lot of moms that happen to be single and father of the baby is not involved. So there's usually an aunt that's helping them or a grandmother. And so that's nice. We can come in. The other thing is though, sometimes when they do say no, I'll do a Zoom. And I've had moms pick up babies and put it up to the camera and show me like, what do you think of this? And stuff like that. And I always tell them, but sometimes one of the reasons I have had where I won't always hear from them is that sometimes these are high risk moms and they'll get readmitted. So I'll be sitting here texting and calling and emailing and saying,
They're in the
what the heck?
hospital.
And then I don't always shut it down because I'm just like, we'll just wait and see. And then I usually get someone to come back, oh, I was readmitted. Or my baby was readmitted and then when I do see them, because we do make a strong effort to get in there within that first week or 2, but that's such a hard time. And they're just kind of like not ready. But when they do finally see us, like if I get in there by the 3rd week, they're like, darn, I wish I'd had you here that first week, because then you could have told me and I might not be where I am today.
Right.
So it's things like that. Did y'all have any questions for me?
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Well, y'all, every one of y'all, y'all are angels. Thank you very
I
much.
think there's one more.
We got one.
Okay. Well, I'll still say it. The community is very blessed to have y'all.
I'm a closer. I don't do anything that these wonderful ladies do. My sole job is I'm the provider liaison for the Healthy Start Coalition of North Central Florida. So I cover 12 counties in the North Central area. Alachua is one. And part of my job is training the physicians and hospital staff on how to screen and how to use the Healthy Start screen. And so part of that training comes with letting them know about all the wonderful programs out there. So I get to advocate for these ladies all the time, which is the best job in the world. So the biggest question that I get when it comes to newborn is, how come it's not in other counties? Because we service Dixie, Levy, Gilchrist, Hamilton County, Columbia County, Marion, Putnam, and that comes up all the time. And I tell them, well, the Children's Trust of Alachua County funds this program for us. So if you're not aware of who they are, you can go online and look them up and see all the wonderful things that they do for children in the community. So for me, and I'm kind of the marketing guru too. So I share a lot of good educational information with them. And so if we did not, these ladies wouldn't even be in the hospitals and in the physicians' offices if we didn't have the relationships that we have with the hospitals. So we work really hard to build those relationships with them. So I think we're a great program, and I've been with Healthy Start for 12 years, been in public health for, do I keep telling my age here, for over 20 years. So, and every single day I know that I am out there trying to help a mom and a baby. So, and I don't have anything to match how wonderful they are, but that's basically what I do. So, and I am proud that I am a part of it. Any questions?
I would say that if you gave them the ability to get into the hospitals and all those situations, you've done an awful lot. So,
well, it's the relationships are easy as far as I'm concerned, because I kind of feel like I have a job that I'm a friend maker. So, and if I can get in front of somebody and help them to understand what it is and our goals that we're trying to do, then I normally am successful with it. So we did include some success letters in there. So I reached out to all the OBGYNs and they all, and the social workers. I go to the boots on the ground because that's where I need to be, because those are the people that are doing the referrals. Those are the people that want to know about the services when they've got that family sitting in front of them in the NICU and they look, their baby is looking at a 30-day stay. Mom's scared to death. The social worker has got, you know, days upon days that she's trying to make this family feel special and wonderful, and to know that as soon as they get home that they have an RN that's going to come in and sit with them and make sure that some of those things, you know, and calm their fears for them. It's a pretty special thing for them. So it's kind of easy for me because I just get to talk about great things that we do, you know, at Well Florida and Healthy Start. So, and newborn and Team Dad and doula and all the other programs that we do. So any questions?
Questions? No, thank you very, very
No?
much.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it. And
Just a
we already
comment.
voted, so y'all got it for a year. Yeah, funding for a year.
We really appreciate it.
Oh. Made our lives better hearing the stories. So
Why
thank you
we
all.
do what we do, so thank you.
Yeah, quick comment, Lee. And I'll just say it again. I believe nailed it. You guys are angels. I mean, Diana, Kara, Sandy, we know the impact the first year has, and to see how you can kind of change a situation that is struggling in the first month, first week, first 30 days. It's so impactful for the entire life. So thank you all for what you do.
Nancy, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good job, everybody. And I'm always interested in trying to figure out how this newborn program can possibly interdigitate with the doula program. And I also didn't hear anything about the patients who are delivered by the midwives. I'm wondering if the midwives actually do a home visit, and does it have to be a nurse? I know it's ideal if it's a nurse, but if it's another professional that can make some of these referrals and identify people who need follow-up, can we cover more people? I'm as concerned as the rest of the board that the numbers seem so low compared to the number of births that we have, and how can we cover more folks?
May I respond?
Please.
Thank you. Great questions, Dr. Hart, and I appreciated all of your questions. I did answer them and provide that information. I believe I emailed it to you, but the midwives are part of the program. So any birth that the midwife covers, if they do the newborn assessment, we reimburse them, we pay them for that. So the midwives are involved. Another great question that you had is, how is this incorporated with the doulas and even with our other home visiting programs? So between Healthy Start, Nurse Family Partnership, and Parents as Teachers, if they come in either during that prenatal period or right after birth, we ask that that home visitor coordinate with the newborn program to ensure that that family expects, once they deliver, to look for the family partner at the hospital, they understand what the program is about and that they consent to participate, and that they're coordinating, that the nurses are coordinating with their home visitor to make sure that that visit occurs. And then with the doulas, the same thing will happen. So we're so excited. We had 18 doulas trained, as Mia had mentioned last month, and they are all aware of the newborn home visiting program. There is one part of the training where they go over resources that exist in the community so that they can share those with their clients. And one of those resources that we spent a lot of time talking about was newborn. So they are aware, and then we'll have that same expectation of the doulas that we do with our home visitors, that you coordinate with our newborn nurses and your client to have that visit. Did I miss one of your questions?
You good, Dr. Hart?
Okay.
No, it's good.
And I did also provide the data broken down by each hospital. I know that was a question that you had. So data broken down by Shands, by HCA, North Florida, and by the midwives.
Thank you, Julie.
One comment, but one thing I heard in everybody's comments about the visits was what's making a difference is persistence and being sensitive to timing of that persistence and personal communication. And so to Dr. Labarta's comment about increasing the ratio and Dr. Hart. I don't know how you quantify that or how you pull that into leading practices of best approach, but there's something there.
I appreciate you saying that, and that brought something else to mind. And I think Commissioner Cornell brought this up too, is that we've evolved. The program has evolved based on what we're seeing and what the nurses are experiencing, like providing the diaper rash ointment, like providing the thermometers, like them becoming certified lactation consultants, like them becoming child passenger safety certified. Those visits may have lasted 30 minutes to an hour when we were working with the home health agencies. They were like knocking them out. Now their visits are 2 hours at a minimum because, and the follow-up. So it's so much more extensive than what it was originally because we are responding to the needs that we're seeing from the families that we're serving. So just keeping that in mind, it makes it a lot harder to get as many visits when you're trying to fulfill all of those needs.
Thank you. And there's a legal terminology for that. It's called, what you have to do is stalk them.
Yes.
Just shy of getting arrested.
Yeah.
Stay up lockdown. Good. It's for kids.
Thank you. General public comments? Okay, there being none, any board comments?
Good job.
Well done.
We have a budget.
Yeah, it's a great presentation. It's great. It's a shame. I guess pretty much everybody heard it. So, okay, the next meeting dates will be, regular meeting will be Monday, October 9th at 4, and it'll be here until we potentially have a new building. So, all right, thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.